It is our final segment, and it is the holiday season. And Perry Orth is set to set. This will be your first as dad, right? You gotta unmute there, brother.
Well, it normally unmutes itself.
Perry,
there you go.
My bad.
Yep, you're good.
No, yeah, this is my technically second, but she was full alien last
yeah.
Christmas.
That's right.
7 days just frozen like that.
Yeah,
was a brutal deal.
Well, it starts getting fun, and each year gets more fun and more fun. Then you've got elves infiltrating your home, and they move every night. And you got to make sure that where they move, they haven't been there before. You got to check on those crazy little elves.
That's right.
That's man, that's going to be a blast, man.
I'm looking forward to it.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you, your wife, and your entire family. Gamecocks were open for a gift on Tuesday night, and they did not get it from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Perry, obviously, we're going to look back, talk about the game, but your reaction to their 14th ranking.
Oh, man. You know, I can, as much Gamecock fans and nation might not love this statement, but I can see Bama in Ole Miss on the mere fact of they beat us. It is what it is. I know we're on a 6-game win streak, but they beat us, and you have to at least somewhat value the head-to-head. Now, do I believe that we're one of the top 12 teams in the country? Yeah. The fact that I might have to watch potentially an SMU Boise State round 1 just doesn't sit right with me. And it's no disrespect to those teams or their players, but come on. Are you serious? LaNorris would terrorize their teams, those defenses. And I get SMU's good and Boise State's got that good running back, but dude, they were in a dogfight with Wyoming, who was 2-8 at the time. I mean, at that stage in the season, I mean, come on. The fact that there are conferences that get automatic bids, I mean, it's almost like the freaking Democrat National Convention got together and said, hey, we're going to put together a selection committee. I mean, what in the world are we doing here? So I don't know. I don't like it, but it pissed me off because how classic is this that we beat Clemson and Clemson's going to win Saturday. I think they are at least, and they're going to get in the playoff. Yeah. And of all the Clemson fans I've spoken with, a lot of them are, obviously they're pumped that they're getting in, but they hate it for us, and they don't even like us, but they hate it for us. The fact that we beat them and they're going to get in and we're not, so it's crazy. And then if I'm Coach Beamer and the new athletic director, Ray Tanner, or whoever's making these decisions moving forward, take Virginia Tech off the schedule. Right. Clemson should be every other year, and and just play as big of a cupcake schedule as you can. But then, of course, next year this new committee is going to come in and they're going to value strength of schedule and who's playing the best right then and there. And then the year after, they're going to value something different. And I don't know. It's frustrating. And it's frustrating too. I remember being on, my segment after the LSU game, and to look back and know that a terrible, terrible call cost us a playoff bid. I mean, it cost us a chance to play. We'd be playing Saturday for an SEC title against a beatable Texas team, by the way. Yeah. So that's my rant.
Well, look, to your point, and we've mentioned a lot of what you just said as well. On the to the point of the committee, and I asked Mike this question. Mike didn't have the answer because he's not on the committee. None of us have the answer. It's just a hypothetical question. Why does the criteria have to change every year? Why should college football be having to adjust itself to the committee? That doesn't make any sense to anybody. That's not how this thing works. Like, the criteria is the criteria, period, the end.
Yeah.
You know, 1 year, well, this is important to these guys. Well, next year it might be important. It's just a bunch of nonsense. And to your point on the officiating, I've said this, college football can fix it. Everybody gives you an excuse why they can't, but they can. And you could do one thing very easily, very quickly when it comes to officiating. Let the coaches have a challenge for a call on the field. There's no reason not to. There's Shane Beamer could have thrown a red flag after a yellow flag and said, I want you to go look at that. If the official screwed it up, we can get it right. I'm so sick of the excuses. And to your point, you're talking about, this is real. This is a real situation where there's a team who, yes, did not have their quarterback in the second half of that game. And that ultimately, I think, cost them as much, if not more, than the poor officiating. But you can't control the injury situation. You do have an option to throw a flag out there and say, I want you to look at this pass interference call, or I want to look at the Kyle Kennard call again. If it's verified, it's verified. They can do it, but they're choosing not to. And then you get an excuse when you ask why. I'm so sick of that. There's no legitimate reason, Perry. These things can help the sport. It's $1 billion industry, and we're not going to put our best foot forward. None of this crap makes any sense to me.
Yeah, it's a struggle, man. It's unfortunate. You know, the Bama lost by 2 on the road. You know, we got beat up pretty good against Ole Miss, but the fact that the way that LSU game, and obviously South Carolina does have some ownership there. They blew a 17-point lead.
Sure.
But when it comes down to games like that, and outcomes of games are decided on a call that the refs clearly didn't see, because you see the delay in the call from giant Kyle Kennard standing over the quarterback doing this and the guy laying there like he had just been shot. Then you see 5 flags come in 5 seconds after the hit had actually taken place. And Garrett Nussmeier, who I like, did one hell of an acting job. He didn't get hit hard. He got pushed. You know, he laid there like he got decleated. I don't know, man. It just, it's upsetting. But what I don't want to have happened, and it's kind of like the basketball season last year. We went to the NCAA tournament and got, beat pretty good in round 1. Didn't change the fact that last basketball season wasn't amazing. We were at home playing top 5 team for a conference regular season championship. And same goes for the football season. This was a great football season. And I hope that the message within the locker room is, you might have a guy sit out here and there, but the consensus is don't squander the season because half the team decides to not play for whatever. Go in and win 10 football games for how many times has that happened? I know we won 11-2 those years.
5th time that they've won 10 or more.
5th time in program. You would be, this respective team would go down. Not exactly the best moment of South Carolina football, bragging moment here. Go down as one of the best teams we've ever had.
And to that point, Perry, I have to interject this every time this comes up. This would be the most difficult path to 10 wins. This
Easily.
is a stacked SEC, right?
Yeah,
no offense to the 11-win teams under Spurrier, but it's a stacked SEC, and Carolina had one of the most difficult conference schedules out there and nationally. So I think when you add all that up, you can make an argument the 10-win season that they may embark on is even more impressive than some of the 11-win seasons. Just food for thought.
Yeah, from a competition view, yeah, absolutely. I think top to bottom, absolutely. Man, especially if we've kind of beaten dead horse here, found a way to have beaten the LSU team this past year. It was an impressive season. And the way signing day went, the development of LaNorris, golly, the comparison. I wish we could play during our segment. Maybe this could be a project for you guys in the future. Play basically replays of us breaking down our segment here a week after, or the following week of the Old Dominion game, right? Like, what were we saying? Who were we in the panic? But what were we talking about LaNorris Sellers at the time? Like, what were we talking about the defense? What were we talking about the offense overall? What, like, the whole thing. To go back after that game and sit here now at season's end and say they went 9-3, they lost to Alabama by 2, got robbed against LSU, lost to Ole Miss, but then went on a 6-game win streak to hammer A&M, beat Missouri, beat Clemson on the road, finished 9-3. We'd all be pretty pumped. It just stinks that, we missed the playoff by a couple spots. But, to the point about the 10-win season, you have an opportunity to go out and win a 10th game against a team that you'll probably be favored against and go and have be the 5th team ever. I mean, they'll do something nice. They'll recognize either the team or some of the key players, but then the momentum that it builds heading into next season with the potential of getting some of these guys out of the portal to help the perimeter and help LaNorris and the development of some of these younger offensive line that didn't play this year that we have on the roster that were incredibly high talented and recruited guys. And, LaNorris is going to enter the season as a preseason Heisman frontrunner. He will. I mean, I'm seeing stuff all over social media saying that, college football robbed us of watching LaNorris Sellers just terrorize teams in the playoff. And that's the truth. And, it's sad, but, nothing, as a fan, former player, alumni, this football season was awesome.
Perry, I want to give you credit. And you weren't the only one. Some of the other former players pointed this out, but you were pretty adamant at the beginning of the year when the offense was not clicking. And it was basically Dowell Loggains was a piñata. Anything that went wrong, it was Dowell's fault. And you kept saying, I don't know what you guys are seeing. He's calling good plays. And you were kind of pretty steadfast in that you thought he was doing a good job. That's become a more popular opinion now, but you had it back in September. What do you think was the difference in the offense really finding its way during the second half when it clearly was sputtering at times in the first half?
LaNorris Sellers.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. He got settled in. I think the protection helped a little bit, but I think his mobility from within the pocket and ball combined with ball security was the difference in our wins and losses. The games that we lost, he fumbled, had a horrible fumble, unfortunately, against Alabama, which led to a score. Horrible fumble against LSU that led to a score. One-score games, those plays matter, unfortunately, but you saw him take care of the ball better. Now, I understand he still turned it over at times, but he handled himself and his growth within the pocket. It got so much better every week, and I watched Dowell do the same thing with Spencer last year, and it was almost the exact same trajectory of development game by game, for LaNorris. And maybe I'm a little blinded because I like Dowell and I know him personally. But the other thing that I give Dowell a lot of credit for is Dowell Loggains is an NFL-minded play caller. He is under center, play action pass, deep, long progressing pass concepts where you need time, you need great receivers, and you need an experienced quarterback to do well in. And for him to go from that mentality of offense to I'm going to run the quarterback. I'm going to run the power read. I'm going to run the pin and pull with my QB. I'm going to get in the gun and run zone read. I'm going to throw quick game. I'm going to throw RPOs. You're doing a philosophy switch. And as somebody that has called plays and has had to be an OC, not at that level, not even remotely close to that level at the high school level, but for me to know my understanding of how I view offense and then to change that and obviously you have to fit your players and your quarterback, but for him to do that and for us to get better and score a bunch of points and look pretty efficient during the back half of the season, I think it shows the credit of coach and quality of coach that he is. His play calling might not be Steve Spurrier where it's just all this creativity blowing up everywhere, but it's very efficient. It was great for who he had. and you guys have heard me say this all year, one dynamic receiver away from this offense really, really being good. And I'm not knocking any of the guys we have now. We got some young players that are really good, but I'm talking like we all know that if Xavier Legette was back on this team this year, he would be the bona fide number one dude, right? If Juice Wells is on this team, he would be the number one bona fide dude. Does not mean the guys we have now are bad. They're actually really good players, and they've progressed a bunch. But you throw in a big-time receiver in this bunch, next year with LaNorris, you get him 2 guys, it might be a fireworks show.
Well, they're returning so many guys. You look at a guy like Nick Harbor, who in the last 6 weeks has turned into a totally different player.
No question.
Jared Brown, Mazio Bennett, we can name a bunch of guys. They're bringing in what I think is an elite group out of high school. You look across the country at the wide receiver classes for all these teams, you'd be hard pressed to find one that's as talented as the one that Carolina's bringing in too. Perry, they have another game to play, and that's going to be down in your home state of Florida somewhere, maybe Orlando, maybe Jacksonville, maybe Tampa, who knows? And the hope is, as you pointed out, that there won't be a bunch of opt-outs and things like that. But this is we're about to get into the most unique offseason in the history of Carolina football. And my explanation behind that is a very short one. They've never had a quarterback who's a freshman. I know he's a redshirt freshman, but he's still a freshman with what would perform that way. And then be returning with the capability of reaching into the transfer portal to bring experienced talent in, as you just pointed out a moment ago. We saw last year they were able to go into the portal and get Rocket Sanders, for instance, and get a couple of other guys. And obviously they had a hell of a year in the transfer portal last year. So in seeing the growth that we saw out of this offense this year, knowing that there's still a couple of weeks left for bowl practice, one more game to play, and then LaNorris Sellers is returning as the leader of this offense, can you project at all, or would you even want to begin to project at all what the expectations for that side of the ball will be coming into the 25 season?
Depends on who we get in the portal, but the expectations are high. I mean, 30 plus a game, I think, would be a starting point. With him and his ability, remember we talked about this while I was in the pitch black on Tuesday last week, breaking down the Clemson game.
Yeah. Hey, Flint called me after that show, by the way. He goes, "Hey, where was Perry at?" I was like, "Definitely in the bottom of the dumpster somewhere."
Yeah, it was in the garage now. But
that was funny.
Trying not to wake up the baby next door, but
I get it, man.
But yeah, I think, his ability to create when the pocket breaks down won us the football game against really A&M, Missouri and Clemson. And you add a couple guys that can just get open versus man coverage on normal non-quick game pass related routes. It's going to open up the offense a ton. And Rocket was really great at breaking that first tackle, finding another back that, might not be a Rocket Sanders, but, somebody that can come in and really, really do well. I think the sky's the limit. And at the end of the day, next year it's going to come down to who are we going to get on the defensive line to backfill the talent that we're getting ready to lose, unfortunately. And one of the good things about this team, I wanted to share this, was look at the Clemson game was a perfect example. We had a late turnover, and in many of the years that I've been watching South Carolina football, you've watched that turnover on offense turn into a touchdown by the other team. Our defense just, bam, shuts it down, punt, end it. And it basically makes that turnover null and void. I mean, I can count numerous times this year watching games where, we turned the ball over, but the defense did a 3-and-out right after that. They had to punt. It was over. It was like it never even happened, right? You just basically burned time off the game clock. How do we how do we backfill the defensive line? How do we replicate that again by playing incredibly complementary football? That will be the story, in my opinion, for next year's team. We know what LaNorris is capable of. We know, we'll find out the talent that we garner, but I'm assuming we're going to get a couple guys that can play on offense. We know that our offense is going to go into, the season next year as one of the best in the conference. And, now we've got to find some guys on the defense. So the complementary football of this team was something that we haven't had in a long time, and hence the record. Fortunately, returning a guy like Dylan Stewart on the D line, he's a force to be reckoned with. So we'll see.
Who knows what other changes are coming? You never know with staff and things like that. Things happen. But Perry, we'll end the conversation with Shane Beamer. If you hired a guy named Joe Smith in 2020 who came from Marshall or wherever, with no direct ties to the University of South Carolina, other than he was an excellent football coach and wanted to take the next step. And he came here and took a team that went 2-8 in 2020 into a bowl game. And then the next year took him to another bowl game with consecutive top 10 wins to end the season. And then, year 3, you have some trouble. You don't get to a bowl game, but you turn around and you run out and win 9 games and you knock on the door of the college football playoff. His agent would be shopping him all over the country with any opening that's available, or they'd be asking people to open jobs to hire a guy like, man, look what this guy's done at South Carolina. He won more games in the first 4 years than Steve Spurrier. Yeah. Holy moly. We don't have that. We don't have that problem here at South Carolina, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on what that means for the stability and the future of the program. Yeah. And knowing that Shane has shut all this stuff down from day one. I'm where I want to be, and what that buy-in looks like now when he has to go hire coaches, when he has to go to the portal. Now he's had some success to go along with it in truly building a sustainable program that wins.
Man, Coach Beamer has been so impressive the way he's handled all of it this year. He's really seemed to be a football coach where it's been interesting to watch his development from good football coach to, you could tell, was learning the ropes as he was going, to from day one, from even the first press conferences back in August, just had so much confidence in this team, and belief in this team. And even when we lost, he didn't waver. He didn't get on the mic and blame other people. They took accountability for everything that didn't go well. And I believe it ran downhill into the players, and they took accountability for every play and every action they did. And man, it feels good as an alumni and somebody that I don't think I'll ever leave the state, but to have somebody that cares as much as they do about the program, that's not, Ohio State, they might be getting rid of their coach. How can I kind of jump from a good program to one of the blue blood football programs in the country, but to have him here and be loyal and build his family here in Columbia, it speaks volumes. And I know Carolina fans are going to hate when I say this, but he's basically recreating Clemson here, but his own version of doing it. And Dabo Swinney had a lot of really good assistant coaches that turned down a lot of head jobs for years because they wanted to stay, have that camaraderie. They knew what the expectation was. They knew what it was like to work with the boss. They knew they had that comfortability and were able to kind of get their families planted here, because that turnover in the college football coaching world it's gnarly. It's horrible. Mm-hmm. And to be able to hitch your wagon to a guy that has no intentions of leaving, and to create that consistency within the life of yourself, your family, your kids, it all affects everything about the way the program is run. And so, I don't get a chance to talk to Coach Beamer often, but, next time I see him, I'm going to tell him, we are cheering for him as hard as we ever have before. But, I speak on behalf of many other players that I've talked to, and no discrediting to the coaches we played for, but we all collectively would have loved to have been on one of his coach-led teams for sure.
They've won 2 of the last 3 in the upstate too, Perry. That resonates around here.
Yes, it does, man. Those sorry bastards. I love nothing more watching them lose. But anyway.
Oh, you know what? The social media team said it perfectly after the ball game. Stay in your corner. And it looks like that's where they're going to be for a little while. We'll chat with you, maybe one or two more times before we get to Christmas. But it's always a pleasure to have you. Get that shopping done. Don't be running around on Christmas Eve now.
Yes, sir.
You're forgetting to get stuff for the kid. You go to Gamecock Traditions today and get what you need to get.
There you go.
Actually, if you go to Lamar, if you go tomorrow,
yeah.
you go tomorrow, you can get an autograph from LaNorris Sellers. Have you ever met him before?
I have once, but I do need his autograph.
Well, there you go. Head out to Gamecock Traditions.
He made that Texas A&M night, my daughter's first game, like the most special first game. You bring your first kid to their first Carolina game. It was awesome. So I'm going to have to get him to sign something for me.
There you go. That's awesome, man.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
Perry. See ya. There you go. The great Perry Orth.